Congratulations, you killed your first dragon. Now, before you continue your adventure, it is essential that you fuel yourself appropriately, lest you wind up like our friend Marcel here. Now, cooking a dragon might feel overwhelming, so I'll break it down for you. Today, we're making some gourmet dungeon meshi recipes, including an onion and cheese focaccia, braised dragontail served atop some dungeon polenta, and last but certainly not least, some medium rare dragon steaks. So go wash your hands and let's get started. First on the list is our caramelized onion, ricotta cheese, and garlic herb focaccia. So for this recipe, I'm using Claire Saffitz's focaccia recipe. Claire Saffitz has never led me wrong. And I've never made this recipe before, so I'm hoping it won't lead me wrong, but you know, in Claire Saffitz we trust. To start, we're taking some bread flour and room temperature water and mixing this until it's a shaggy dough. We're gonna cover this for an hour and let it rest. Once the dough has rested, we're going to activate our yeast by putting our yeast in some warm water with a pinch of sugar and let it sit for about 5 minutes until foamy. We're going to pour the yeast mixture into the stand mixer and mix on low until the dough absorbs all the water. Make sure you do this on the lowest setting or it'll splash everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Like that. Transfer to a large bowl that's been oiled with olive oil, cover and place in a warm spot until the dough has doubled in volume, about 2 or 3 hours. Looks runny, it'll be fine.
I'ma trust you, Claire Saffitz. You haven't steered me wrong before.
After it has rested for 2 to 3 hours, we're going to do a few stretch and folds with the dough. Still runny? Trust Claire Saffitz, it'll be fine. Oil a baking sheet and pour the dough onto the sheet, gently stretching it out with your hands. Cover with a piece of oiled plastic wrap and let it sit for about 10 minutes to let the gluten relax. Repeat the stretching process one more time and let rest in the fridge under oiled plastic for at least 8 hours or up to 24 hours. Once ready to bake, remove from the fridge and let come to room temperature for 45 minutes while we work on our caramelized onions. To caramelize onions, slice them really thin, place them in a hot skillet over medium heat, add a splash of water, and continue to stir them for about 45 minutes until a nice caramel color. Once those are done, preheat the oven to 450. For assembly, first drizzle the dough with olive oil. Use your fingers to make little dimples all over the bottom of the pan. Sprinkle 7 cloves of crushed garlic over the focaccia along with half a sprig of rosemary. Top with your caramelized onions. Add dollops of ricotta cheese all over the focaccia. Top with more caramelized onions. And finally, finish with a sprinkle of Parmesan cheese, some fresh cracked salt. Bake for 30 to 35 minutes until deep golden brown all over, cool, and cut as desired and serve. Now for super easy dungeon polenta, bring 5 cups of water to a boil in a medium saucepan, add a teaspoon of salt, add 1 cup of cornmeal, and stir with a whisk or spoon as it thickens about 2 to 3 minutes. Make sure you scrape the edges so we don't get clumps. Turn the heat to low and cook for 45 minutes, covered with a lid, and stir about every 10 minutes. It'll thicken up quite a bit. Once cooked, add a tablespoon of butter, some grated Parmesan cheese, and cover with a lid until ready to use. Time for braised dragontail. Season your dragontail pieces with salt and pepper, then place them in a heavy bottom, preheated Dutch oven to sear on all sides for 5 minutes on each side. We want to render a good amount of fat off of the dragontail pieces, so you cannot skip this step. Once seared, remove from the pan and place on the inside of the pot lid or a plate while we add a little bit of olive oil to the pot and add in our carrots. Cook the carrots on medium heat for a minute or 2 and then add your celery and onion. Let these cook down for about 5 minutes, then add in your garlic. Let that come together for another 2 to 3 minutes, then we're going to add in some red wine. I used 1.5 cups of a Merlot. I'm scraping the bottom of the pan to make sure I get as much fond off of there as possible before I add in a can of crushed tomatoes. To finish off the bulk of the braising liquid, we're adding in 1 quart of beef stock. We're going to add our dragontail pieces back into the pot and make sure they're nice and submerged in the braising liquid. To that, we're going to add 3 bay leaves, a couple sprigs of thyme, 1 large sprig of rosemary, some fresh ground black pepper, along with some smoked paprika, granulated garlic, and 2 pinches of caraway seed. Cover, and we're going to bring this to a boil before we pop this in the oven for 3 hours. Once it's out of the oven, let it cool for about 15 minutes before tasting, season to taste, and then serve atop a bed of polenta and drizzle some extra braising liquid across the top. Last but not least, our dragon steaks. Once the steaks have rested and our cast iron skillet is super hot, salt and pepper your steak and add it to the skillet. Do not touch it for 4 to 5 minutes. It'll smoke a lot, but it's totally fine. You can salt and pepper the other side and press the peppercorns into the steak. Give it a flip and let the other side cook for another 4 to 5 minutes. Once it's cooked, go ahead and sear all the edges of the steak and transfer to a cutting board to rest for at least 15 minutes. We're going to go ahead and make some really easy asparagus to serve with this. Take some asparagus, pop that in the same skillet, give it a drizzle of olive oil, and add about 4 or 5 cloves of crushed garlic along with the zest of 1 lemon and the juice of 1 lemon. Again, it'll smoke a lot, that's okay. We want a nice char on our asparagus. Season to taste, then plate. To plate, we're going to cut our ribeye against the grain into strips, add a couple of those to our plate to show off that beautiful cook, add our asparagus, and garnish with some fresh shaved Parmesan. And there you have it, the entire Red Dragon feast, but gourmet. So let's break this down piece by piece and talk about it. The focaccia was so good, all the flavors worked really well together. The thing that I liked about focaccia specifically instead of pizza is that the bread allows you to sop up that really rich gravy that is created with the braised oxtail. I know Senshi made a pizza in the show, but I felt that a focaccia would work better with the liquid so that did not go to waste. Speaking about this braised oxtail, let's break this down into the polenta and the braised oxtail itself. The polenta was fabulous, and I think it really served as an excellent vessel for getting a lot of that braised liquid in and some of those oxtail bites. It all paired really, really well. The braised oxtail itself was fabulous. If you're questioning if your oxtail is done cooking or not, just let it cook a little bit longer. That will only, improve things as the connective tissues in that oxtail just break down and everything gets really, really fork tender. To reheat this, I recommend you do so in a sauce pot over medium-low heat. Once it starts to bubble a bit and the meat has started to heat up, add a little bit of butter and it'll help bring that sauce together and be really, really glossy and delicious. And last but certainly not least is our dragon steak. Now I chose ribeye for a few reasons. One, I feel like it's a pretty forgiving piece of meat to work with if you've not done steak before. The reason for that is ribeye is a very, very fatty cut of meat. So if you cook it longer, that meat will continue to render and everything will stay really, really tender. So if you overcook your meat a little bit, it'll still be really tender, whereas if you do something like a New York strip or sirloin, that's gonna be really, really tough. The second reason I really like ribeye is, again, because it is a fattier piece of beef. It has more natural flavors, so you really only need salt and pepper to really bring its natural flavors out and make it shine. You don't need anything special. You don't need a ton of sauces to it. If you treat the meat well, it'll speak for itself. The last reason I really like ribeye is that I feel that it's universally a crowd pleaser because it's so tender, because it's so flavorful, everyone likes it. So you're not gonna run the risk of people thinking that it's too dry, and it just appeals to a wide variety of palates. But definitely make sure that you eat your veggies. People do not eat enough fiber, and colon cancer is actually on the rise in people under 45, so please make sure you eat enough veggies. That is why I included this asparagus for you. We want you to live long, happy, and healthy lives, and making sure you eat enough fiber and get enough variety in your diet is an important part of that. But I will step off of my soapbox. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, smash that like button. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, drop those down below. I love to chat with you. I'm happy to respond. And I do appreciate your suggestions. If there's something you want to see in particular, let me know. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel. We just hit 200 subs. Thank you so much for your support. And ring that bell for notifications so you know when new videos go live. Share this with someone who you would love to make this Dungeon Meshi Red Dragon special with. And I think that's it. So adventurers, please take care of yourselves. Make sure you drink enough water, eat enough fiber, and do something nice for someone else. And I will see you next time. Bye-bye.